It's not so much what you know. It's that this knowledge is there and we're tuning into it and making it, we're drawing information ourselves and we're making it related to first to ourselves. Then as we do other people's charts, we're seeing how it relates to other people and seeing how they live it. And we're developing a scope of life far beyond what we normally thought was, a scope of development, of growth, of being that's far faster than we ever imagined, just coming out of our mother, our backyard, going to school and starting our life. So as we increase this sensitivity, as we increase this depth, well, we increase the responsibility for improving and making our life better and making the world better. Or at least more peaceful. Then each planet becomes the key to dealing with anger, to dealing with judgments, to dealing with lust or desires, and how our lust or desires are pulled this way or that way, how our anger comes up over here, how we come up, and then it's a spiritual thing to challenge, to solve how do you solve anger? How do you solve lust? How do you get to peace? How do you get to acceptance? How do you get to, wow, what's love? It's not how do you get love? How do you give love? How do you radiate it? How do you have the confidence to do it? How do you have the wholesomeness? So wholesome being is really what astrology is reinforcing and presenting. Here's a wholesome image of what holistic living would be like. It would include all of these factors. And in reality, when we're looking at our lives or our horoscopes, we see how, wow, I've really chosen one or two of these factors more than some of the others. And I got work to get the ones I don't have. And I got to tone down some of the ones I have too much of. We have to work to try. We're going to across a lifetime experience all of these things. And hopefully we grow and we develop this wholesomeness. But for many years, we can often get locked in a house or locked in a certain area of concern and make heavy judgments about it, get really angry about it, have such intense experience of a certain type in it, and we lose our sense of wholesomeness. As we lose our wholesomeness, we get our narrow sense of living, and we think this is how it should be, and then we can interpret everyone else being wrong or everyone else being, oh boy, it gets really complicated. So I'm really an individualist. Every individual has we all come out of our mothers, we all come out of our backyards, all go to school, we run into the neighborhood, we run into the rest of the world from where we came from. Mom's home. But out of all the women being mom, not everybody has it right. Not everybody's got it together. So your chart, the signs in the houses aren't determining your male or femaleness. They're determining your soul, and it's being born into an individuality. It's your process of individuation, of becoming the wholesome individual that the horoscope is measuring. And often we see how we're just like this or we're just like this, but we're looking, I can really see that. And what we're really seeing is that's our strong suit, yes, but that's what's stopping us from being wholesome a lot of times. So how do we use what we've got to be able to get experiences that allow us to include the whole chart? If you're bringing up a kid and you see they're really strong intuitively, your probably work is going to be to have them be able to be objectively sensational, relating, being sensitive to other people, not just projecting. If you have a kid that's really a feeling person, they're into their own feelings, they're going to naturally be very creative and expressing their feelings, but they may have to learn to control their feelings so they can think rationally sometimes. So often the work to balance your chart is there's a wholesome factor that brings out whole gaps of what you don't have the experience, weak spots or gaps. And even though you may be strong in one area, you're only going to be as successful in that area as you're able to balance the opposite side. So this little mandala of intuition, sensation, thinking, feeling, boy, you can slow down here. You can spend a lot of time thinking about it, feeling about it, sensing it, getting your intuitions about it. With every chart, we're going to be trying to do this. Each day, we're going to be trying to do this and relate it from one planet at a time. How our memory, how our moods and our feelings come in, and what part of the chart, what part of the houses are they in? Do we have subjective feelings or do we have objective functional feelings? Whoa, some people, you touch them, they take everything personally. They go into the feeling. Some people, you touch them, you hug them, and they're just rationally processing it as to what it means and strategic. very different concepts of feeling. So same with thinking. Thinking is going to be in the scale, same way with your values and your Venus and what you're attracted to and repulsed from, and the choices you make, they're going to be inclined to go a certain direction at the expense of another direction. And sometimes you need to counter that or balance it. It's not just about only being one way. It's about trying to become your whole horoscope, trying to become every planet all at once, all the levels of consciousness at the same time, all the houses at the same time, all these categories alive at the same time and interacting, and all the signs of the zodiac coming in and functioning at the same time. This creates this beautiful painting, this beautiful mosaic or tapestry of life. You're it. I'm it. Each of us has it. So we're measuring the nature in life and how we're attached to nature. But as soon as you get to spiritual things like love or your heart or God or spiritual things, you go beyond your horoscope. You go beyond time. So when you close, it's like you close your eyes, you go in, you just get to your inner meditation, you get to your heart, you get to your center. All of a sudden, all the other things dissolve away and you can be at peace. But as soon as you go out and go towards one thing or another, you're spinning around the wheel. And there's so many textures and so much going on. It can take, well, some people believe it takes 1,000 lifetimes to get to, or 360 lifetimes to get through every experience before you can get to that wholesomeness without just imagining it or projecting it. So it's, a horoscope's a map. It's a map of consciousness. And when we look at the map of consciousness, we see all the different areas and provinces of consciousness and different dimensions and cities and areas of consciousness. And then we see how we're aligned to it. And it's very unique for everybody. Our planets, our angles, everything's very unique how we come into this universe of consciousness. And here we have the map. So we're looking at it, when we're looking at it characteristically of the behavior of a person, we're kind of, it's almost we're looking at a weather forecast. Oh, you got this chart, this is how you are. And then we make judgments around it based on where we are, what's right or not, and the person living in, when you were born, where the planets were, the house they're in, the signs they're in, you are the answer to the universe at that moment, at that point in time and space. You are the answer to the universe. You're part of it. But the world doesn't stop because you got on, it keeps moving. And it's harder and harder to be yourself. But that being yourself is an important part of the universe. In another way, you can't possibly not be yourself. You can think differently, whatever, you're still going to be yourself. You can't not be it. But there's positive and negative experiences that can be accumulated around this. I mean, without knowing transits or progressions or anything, you should be able to look at a chart and see whether someone's living wholesomely, healthily or not. When I looked at my chart and the first time, you mean I'm supposed to be like this? Oh, wow. There's some things you don't have to attack yourself for because you're just going to be that way. You might have to work to counter it at times, but at least you're getting the cosmic hub of this is my slice or my way of going at it. My individuation process will go this way. So some people are really socially interactive and think that who you relate and what you're doing out in the world is life. Some people, that's all superficial and just how you're living day to day and how deeply you're feeling and how that's life. And the rest is all a facade. And it's the mix of all of these things that makes up every day. So you could say, I'm born at 2 a.m. I have my son in the second house, and it's my focus. But really, at that same moment you were born, everyone else in the world is being born in different places. Even at that same moment, someone has a son in the first house, and in any house, they're all being the same. At that same moment, people will have different house positions. Because the planets will still be in the same signs, the aspects will be the same, but the houses will shift based on where you are on the planet and what time of day it was. So it's all 24 hours at the same time. It's night here, it's daylight somewhere else. It's all 24 hours at the same time. But when I say I'm taking this point, this is where I am here on this planet now, I'm taking a specific focus. My anchor, my consciousness crystallizes around that and all the other things start spinning around it. So going out into the world, you're going to go with those energies. You're going to go out and play with those energies, make them as best as you can. Sometimes they get reinforced by others, some people that sometimes they don't, and everyone has their story. You know, someone born in a war zone, and there can be millions of people in a war zone, having every different sign, every different house will be there, and each person will have different experiences as they're going through it, and they formulate their consciousness through it. This is formulating, going out into the wheel and developing your worldly sense of how to extend out into the wheel of life. That's the outer breath. But when your spirit starts to recharge, people die, things live, you start to recharge, you take that breath inward, and you're going in. There's a process of astrology where you can go into the center of your chart, away from the outer experiences, going into the center more and more. And as you go into the center more and more, you get your spiritual centering. But you usually can't get to your center without integrating the ascendant, descendant, and the inner outer MC and the IC. And usually the IC is the umbilical cord, the inner depth, that if you can get at peace within yourself, then it can go to the other parts of your chart. Then you can maybe get centered properly. Sometimes people are in social positions and they're not very deep, but they're in social positions and they're centered. It just happens. So like Gandhi would be a good example. Martin Luther King would be a good example. It's just we have moments when we can be centered out in the world. Really, when we're looking from spirit, we can't be separated from our spirit or from God. We can't be separated from our inner being. Our chart is really measuring everything that we're attached into life for. It's our roots into life. It's not our spirit. But our spirit permeates all of those things. So we can turn the chart inward to get into our spirit through the signs and through the houses and get back to the center of the wheel. Excuse me. So yeah, it's just a drawing. If you look at someone's, there's a horoscope, there's just a drawing, there's signs, there's houses, planets, aspects. All the symbols on a chart. Someone can pick it up, just toss it away. They just don't realize that the graphic has codes and levels of association, meanings that grow well enough to include almost all of life. And here we're dealing with the daily cycles, the hours of the day. Each house is 2 hours of a day. So we're dealing with the phases of the day, the types of experiences within a day. That's very different than the signs. We're dealing with the months of the year and the themes of the seasons. The themes of the seasons, well, the daily things go on in the winter season, in the summer season, they go on in different seasons. And they interpenetrate each other.